Are your habits ruining your life? On a day-to-day basis, are you aware of the habits that you do? Are you spending too much time scrolling through social media? Are you eating the wrong food? Are you not getting enough exercise? Are you not getting enough sleep? Are you not learning new skills and developing and pushing yourself forward? If this is a problem, I have a solution for you. James Clear wrote an international bestseller called Atomic Habits. In this book, he outlines 4 laws that must be observed if you're going to learn how to break old habits and learn new ones. Over the series of the next few clips, I'm going to break each one of them down for you. The first law is called make it obvious. Right now, you're probably aware of most of your habits, but some of them you're doing unconsciously. What we need to do here is we need to make the unknown known. And the way we're going to do that is through using a habit scorecard. All a habit scorecard is a list of your behaviors from when you wake up in the morning till you go to bed at night. From those behaviors, you're going to pick out the habits in there that are going to be effective, ineffective, and neutral. How you're going to rate these will depend on what your goals are and what your particular situation is. Once we've done this, we've identified some space where you can put in a few new habits. The best way to implement a new habit is to choose a specific time and place for it to happen. And the easiest way to do that is going to be to write it down. So take a pen and a piece of paper and you're going to write, I will, and put in the behavior that you want to do. And then you're going to put at and write in a time. Now also, if it's relevant, you might want to put in a location at this point. But to give you a really simple example, I will go to bed at 10 p.m. It doesn't have to be any more complicated than that. But let's say that that's a habit that you've got nailed and you want to introduce something like reading more in your life, okay? So what we're going to do now is we're going to do something called habit stacking. This is where we use an existing behavior as a cue for a new behavior. So we're going to get our pen and bit of paper out again. We're going to write down, I will go to bed at 10 p.m. and I will read 5 pages of my book. This is a system to implement habits that's really efficient and really easy, and you can use it all over the place. The next thing we need to consider is environment. It's probably the biggest thing influencing you right now, especially if you extend that to people that you spend time with. People seriously underestimate just how much friction comes from their environment when it comes to creating new habits. If you want to have any chance of introducing new habits into your life, you need to get your environment working for you and not against you. Let's say you're trying to learn a new instrument. You want to leave that out somewhere where you can see it every evening and remember to practice. Don't put it away in a cupboard where it's difficult to get at and you never see it and then you forget all about it. If you want to eat healthy, prepare all your meals for the week on one day. This way, when you come home from work, it will stop you from choosing unhealthy options because you don't feel like cooking. If you're spending too much time on social media, use the app block functions in the settings on your phone to control your digital environment as much as your physical environment. I cannot overstate how important environment is in the successful implementation of habits. The second law is we've got to make our habits attractive. Look, it doesn't matter how good it might be for you. If you don't like doing it, you won't do it. There's got to be some sort of pleasure associated with it. And this is where the neurotransmitter and hormone dopamine comes in. Dopamine is closely associated with reward. So we get it when we do things like shopping, when we do exercising, and when we receive notifications from social media. The interesting thing about dopamine is you don't only experience it when you're experiencing pleasure, you also get it when you anticipate pleasure. This is why children get more excited about the thought of Christmas morning than they do when they're actually ripping open their presents. This is why you are actually more excited thinking about your holiday than when you actually go on it. So if we know that anticipation is a driver of behavior, how can we maximize that? We do this through something called temptation bundling. Temptation bundling is very similar to habit stacking. So let's say, for example, you want to build a habit of working on a side hustle every evening. So you're going to get out your pen and bit of paper again, and you're going to write down, after current behavior, I will, habit I need to do. After habit I need to do, I will, habit I want to do. So how that's actually going to sound is, after I come home from work, I will work on my side hustle for 1 hour. After I've worked on my side hustle for 1 hour, I will Netflix and chill for an hour. It's as simple as that. The whole idea behind temptation bundling is to use the habit that you want to do to get you to do the work you need to do. It's using that anticipation again, okay? And the reward should reflect the habit that you're trying to achieve. The bigger the reward, the bigger the action. And then if it's a big reward, it's going to be a big dopamine spike, and that's going to be to your advantage. Another way to make your habits easier and more attractive is to join a community of like-minded people. It's easier to train at the gym with other people than it is to train at home on your own. And it's even better if you can get a buddy who will come with you on a steady basis. The effect of community on behavior cannot be overstated. We're highly sociable animals, and we have an overwhelming desire to fit in. If we want to join a group of people who are engaging in activities that are beneficial to us, then their influence will help us achieve that. All groups have norms and standards, and by achieving those norms and standards, if we get praise, respect, and approval, then our habits are going to be much more attractive to us. The last method to make your habits more attractive is to reframe the habit. This is simply a mindset shift. Most of the time we say we have to, and we very rarely say that we get to. Now, the truth of the matter is both of these are true, but one is much more helpful than the other. So how do you reframe a habit? Well, try this. Instead of saying, I have to go to the gym, try saying, I get to go to the gym to make myself stronger so that I can play with my kids longer, or that I can go on an adventure holiday with my mates in 6 months' time. Instead of saying, I have to save money, try saying, I get to pay myself first before I pay anybody else. This simple mindset shift helps you realize that most difficulties in life are actually just opportunities for you to improve. And it's worth remembering at this point that most opportunities in life come disguised as hard work. The third law of creating new habits is to make it easy. Now, this might sound like common sense, but all too often we set these unrealistic goals that introduce all this unnecessary complexity and difficulty into our lives. Most people really do underestimate just how much the brain is wired to do nothing and conserve energy. And that's why a less is more strategy is usually more effective. People think that we need to start doing more stuff and have more things whenever we're trying to change our life. And the truth of the matter is that that creates more friction. Having less friction is actually more effective when it comes to achieving our goals. So think about this as just simply being better organized. I'm talking about things like having your workspace uncluttered, spending less time with people who are unmotivated in life, having things laid out for where you need them the next day, having all your meals cooked for the week. Having these are like having micro habits that support your main habits. Another method to reduce friction in your habits is to use the 2-minute rule. When you start a new habit, it should take less than 2 minutes. So reading more becomes reading 1 page. Writing an article becomes writing a paragraph. The idea is that the first 2 minutes are as easy as possible. This is because the first 2 minutes of any habit are the hardest. So the easier you can make those, the better. The reason being that once you get over the first 2 minutes, you're more likely to keep going. I'm using that technique at the minute. Each of the clips that make up this video are less than 2 minutes long. I know that's not that demanding, which makes me far more likely to do the recording. The last tip I have to make your habits easy is to practice them regularly. The more you practice something, the easier it becomes, and over time it will become more automatic than conscious. In fact, a threshold will be reached where you will be able to perform the habit almost automatically without even thinking about it. And this raises an important point about habits. Habits are all about frequency, not time. People ask all the time, how long does it take to form a habit? What they should be asking is how many does it take to form a habit? It's all about doing the work and repeating the habit until it's automatic. The fourth law is to make it satisfying. This is all about making you want to start your habit. Habits are hard to get started and they're hard to keep going. So if there's a high degree of satisfaction involved, you'll persevere. But let's talk about satisfaction for a moment, because there's two kinds of satisfaction. There's immediate satisfaction, and then there's long-term satisfaction. The more immediate the satisfaction you get from a reward, the more you should question whether or not this is in alignment with your long-term goals. A good way to know this is to work out whether the cost of doing something is in the present or whether it's in the future. If it's difficult for you to do it now, then it's probably better for you in the long run. So for example, saving money now means that you'll be better off in the future. Going to the gym now means that you'll be stronger in the future. Putting off parties and staying home to work on your side hustle means that you will have a more aligned and more meaningful future to look forward to. Remember that rule. The more difficult it is now, probably the better it is for you in the long run. Another thing that makes habits really satisfying is to get a run going. A run is a habit that you have performed for an unbroken period of time. And the great thing about them is that the longer you keep one going, the more resistant you are to breaking it. Progress is the greatest form of motivation. Whenever I was saving for 2 years, all my motivation came from watching that figure in my bank account increase and increase. When I'm in the gym, my motivation comes from lifting heavier in movements like squats, deadlifts, and bench presses. So for runs to be really successful, they need to be tracked. Now, tracking can be done in a variety of ways. You can use a pen and a piece of paper, or you can use MyFitnessPal. If you're going to the gym, you want to track the weight you're lifting and the miles you're running. If you are trying to control your diet, you want to track the amount of calories you're eating. If you're trying to track the success of a social media account, you'll want to track the reach and engagement of the videos that you're putting out. The important thing is that you have a system for tracking progress as it happens, because this information will provide you with motivation whenever things start to get tough. The last piece of advice that I have for you in this video series is to get yourself an accountability partner. Now, this could be a friend, it could be a personal trainer, it could be a professional coach. The best way for you to stay on track is to have somebody to hold you to what you say you're going to do. If you're interested in learning more about habits and other personal development tips, including the opportunity to work with me one-on-one on my personal coaching program, then make sure to follow my Instagram page at AskBrianB. Thanks very much for watching.